brothers, the Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to St. Luke. Jesus addressed this parable to those who were convinced of their own righteousness and despised everyone else. Two people went up to the temple area to pray. One was a Pharisee, and the other was a tax collector. The Pharisee took up his position and spoke this prayer to himself. "O God, I thank you that I am not like the rest of humanity, greedy, dishonest, adulterous, or even like this tax collector. I fast twice a week, and I pay tithes on my whole income." But the tax collector stood off at a distance and would not even raise his eyes to heaven, but beat his breast and prayed, "O God, be merciful to me, a sinner." I tell you, the latter went home justified, not the former. For whoever exalts himself will be humbled, and the one who humbles himself will be exalted. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
On Friday, in the wee hours of the morning, at 3 a.m., while everyone was asleep, who am I kidding? I'm looking at college students. Almost everybody was asleep. A killer frost hit our area. I went to the backyard and I saw all of my tender shoot basil limp and dead. What was left of my tomatoes, dead. All of my tender leafed plants, flowers, dead. The acknowledgement that winter had come was staring me in the face. A killer frost can also come into our lives. The frost can deaden our tender consciences and our gentle hearts. It could make us think that we are self-sufficient. And it's almost un-American to think otherwise. But the truth, as St. Francis says, the beginning of wisdom is knowing who God is and knowing who we are. That we are dependent totally on God. That we need God. The Gospel of St. Luke has always been called the Gospel of Prayer. There's three very famous prayers in the beginning of that Gospel that every priest and religious brother and sister say each and every day. Zechariah's prayer, Mary's Magnificat, Simeon's Canticle. For the past couple of weeks, we've been hearing parables about prayer. Last week about that we need to pray, persevere in prayer every day without ceasing. And today, the parable is about our attitude that we take to prayer. And it's a very famous parable about a Pharisee and a tax collector. The Pharisee, the name Pharisee, actually comes from the Hebrew, which means separated ones. They were the ones who observed the laws. They were the ones who taught the laws to others. It was they that everyone looked up to and wanted to be like them. But somehow they misunderstood that they were not self-sufficient. It starts in a good way with him praising God, "Oh, thank God," and then from there he goes downhill, that I'm not like every other person. And then he goes down, speaking to himself, Jesus says, a list of all his accomplishments. like he's giving himself an attaboy. You've done it. You've arrived. You've done everything right. Who doesn't like attaboys when you've done something good? Our world, our culture is built on attaboys. It's why we have ODK, Phi Beta Kappa, National Honor Societies, incentive raises, gold stars, gold statues. Attaboys are good, but unfortunately, when we are puffed up with our own goodness and our own accomplishments, we sometimes tend to look down our noses at everyone else. That was the problem of the Pharisee in the gospel. He was so happy, so proud of himself. And I think we can talk about the sin of pride just a little bit. St. Thomas Aquinas says there's 4 kinds of pride. First, there's the foolish pride. You think you have an excellence which you don't have. Like a child who thinks he's the best basketball player in the world. Anecdotally, there's a mid-sized town in the middle of our country that has 4 bakeries scattered along the main street. The first advertises as having the best donuts in the country. The second says it has the best donuts in the world. The third says it has the best donuts in the universe. And the front window of the final bakery promises the best donuts on this street. Second form of pride. There's the pride of the self-made person. You think you have an excellence you do have, but you think you got that excellence for yourself without anyone else's help. Anecdotally, a very stern and humorless woman was not feeling well and made an appointment to see the doctor. The doctor began by asking the new patient some questions. Do you drink at all? I never touch alcohol, she said with great disdain. Do you smoke? I never go near tobacco. She was insulted by the question. What about your sleeping habits? I go to bed early every night, she said haughtily. I have no time for late night partying and carousing. I'm a busy woman. I'm in bed by 10 and up by 6 every morning. I see, said the doctor, making notes on the chart. Now, exactly what's been the problem? I've been having terrible headaches, she said. I think I see your problem, the doctor said. Your halo is too tight. The third type of pride, the sneakily self-congratulatory pride. You think you have an excellence you do have, and you recognize that God gave it to you, but you assume God gave it to you because he knew that you would make such good use of it. Anecdotally, a story about a woman tourist in Germany. The guide took the group through Beethoven's house. He showed them the piano on which the genius had written his famous Moonlight Sonata. A woman in the group immediately sat down and played a few bars from the sonata. The guide told the group that the famous Polish pianist Paderewski had recently been shown the piano. The woman gushed. I guess he sat down and played like I did. Coyly, the guide responded, no, madam. He said he wasn't worthy to touch the keys. And the last pride St. Thomas Aquinas talks about, the most self-deceptive kind. You think you have an excellence you do have, and you recognize that you have it because God gave it, and you acknowledge that God gave it because he is so good, not because you are so nice, but you are glad others don't have it, and you hope they don't get it. That was wrong. What's wrong with the Pharisee? He had it all together. He was the perfect specimen, and God should have been well pleased with him. Our parable today, we think, might be a story about a Pharisee and a tax collector, but it's not. The story is about a God who loves us so much, forgives us, and justifies us, if we're willing to admit who we are. We are all sinners. And the most perfect prayer is the prayer of the tax collector. Lord Jesus, have mercy on me.